Hello. Good evening. Today we're talking about Meteora DLMM pools and we'll dive straight into it. So the first thing that we want to talk about when we talk about Meteora DLMM pools are the bin structure. So these the pools, they differ from the CLMM pools and the AMM pools in terms of the structure that they've been set up in. So when we talk about the standard CLMM or the AMM pools, then we are looking at a constant product formula being applied to facilitate trading or swaps. Whereas in a DLMM pool, that is not the case. In case of DLMM pools, bins are being used to add liquidity, and as the price moves along the bins, we basically have swaps that are happening at a fixed price point within a given bin, and this basically allows for much reduced slippage compared to the standard CLMM or the AMM pools. So to give you an example of what this means, let me just show you this thing. So when we are talking about liquidity, let's assume there is a liquidity pool, and this pool has $100 and 100 ABC token. I'll just increase the size. So in this pool, this is pool A, we can call this pool A. In this pool, we have $100 and 100 ABC token. Now this is an example that I'm taking, and clearly this is very low liquidity when we talk about. So for example, if we do not follow the constant product or the bin structure and just make swaps through this pool, what would basically happen? Let's suppose somebody comes in and purchases 10 tokens at the price of $1 each. Since there are $100 and 100 ABC tokens, the price for each token would be $1. So 10 tokens at the rate $1 would be about $10. So now when this transaction happens in the pool, we would have plus $10 and minus 10 ABC tokens, which would mean $110 and 90 ABC tokens. Now if we calculate the price for ABC tokens, the price for ABC token increases. Now suppose the second trade happens and the person coming in, let's suppose the first person who's just bought these 10 tokens has come back and tries to sell these 10 tokens, but now the price of each token is higher than $1. So now he'll be selling at a price of $1+, and therefore just by making this trade would end up in a profit. But that is not how trading can be done. I mean, this is clearly not sustainable, not just in low liquidity, even in very high and very deep liquidity. This is just not sustainable, which is why a constant product formula is followed in CLMM and the AMM pools, and this constant repositioning of the tokens and the USDC, or basically both the token pair, this constant repositioning is basically what leads to slippage. So when this person comes in and tries to buy 10 tokens at the price when they started at $1, then when the swap passes through an AMM or a CLMM or any other pool, this person is most likely to end up with, let's suppose, nine tokens in the end, because the pool would be constantly repositioning to adjust the liquidity being taken out and being added to the pool. That is how the price impact is reduced, and this price impact reduction also creates a slippage for the traders. And in the DLMM pools, the Meteora dynamic pools, basically what happens is we, instead of using a constant product formula, liquidity is added at specific price points only. For example, when we look at any pool, I want to pick a larger bin size. So when liquidity is being added in DLMM pools, these bins represent a specific price point. For example, the current bin is priced at 236.27 USDC. The 2.85 USDC that we see is basically, if I add $100 of liquidity and this 0.34 Solana, and I add it into this position, then in this particular bin, the bin I've highlighted, for example, if you take any of these bins, since this is a spot position, liquidity is uniformly distributed, any particular bin will get $2.85 USDC out of the $100 100 USDC position that I'm created. Similarly, this 0.347 Solana is distributed evenly across all these pools, all these bins, and each bin represents a fixed price point. So, and if you note, as we go towards the right, the price of the bin increases, and as we go towards the left, the price decreases, which basically represents the price going up or down. So when, for example, if we talk about this bin, the price at this bin is 279.81. So all the swaps that would be going through this bin around the price of between the price of okay, so for example, if we're taking this particular bin with the price of 279.81 USDC, the previous bin is priced at a lower price, 277.04, and the next bin is at a higher price, 282.61, compared to the central bin, 279.81. So now what basically happens is, these bin, yes, are at a fixed price point and all the swaps will happen at this fixed price, but these bin actually represent a very small width of price. So for example, when swaps are happening, when Solana is priced at $279 to $281, all the swaps will be happening in this bin at a price of 279.81, even when Solana is at 281 and even when Solana is at 278. All the swaps will happen at the same price. This basically reduces slippage for traders significantly, especially if liquidity is concentrated within this pool. This will create very minimal slippages for the traders. So this is basically one of the ways how DLMM pools are more efficient compared to the CLMM or the AMM pools. because they allow for zero slippage due to this bin structure that they follow instead of the constant product formula. Now, the second feature in these DLMM pools is the introduction of dynamic fees. So when basically price volatility is high and the active bin is constantly changing, it could be in either direction, it could be up or down. In those cases, the fees being charged for each swap through this particular pool is increased, and that is done dynamically. As the volatility comes down, it comes down back to its base fees, but as the volatility increases, the base fees increases. So when we look at this base fees, which is about 0.04%, and right now the volatility is such that a fees of 0.4199% is being charged. So clearly more than the base fees is being charged even on a Solana USDC pair, which is not so volatile. But in the cases of and this is a much wider bin step. If we look at a meme coin, volatility is much higher in meme coins, and therefore chances of the dynamic fees, the fees being charged at this point in time are much the fees would be much higher compared to the other pools, for example on Radium or Orca or Solfi. So this is the second advantage, where dynamic pools allow for dynamic fees, which give the liquidity providers the ability to charge higher fees during volatile conditions. And the third advantage that Meteora DLMM pools provide over other liquidity providing solutions or protocols is basically the ability to customize the way in which you want to provide your liquidity. So the first example and the most basic, basically when we are choosing spot and we are selecting autofill basically would mean that there would be an equal amount of tokens in terms of value on both sides of your position. So 106 USDC will be approximately equal to about 0.347 Solana. So this spot strategy is basically the exact same strategy as you would find by providing liquidity in a CLMM pool. And so basically a CLMM pool and a spot strategy on Meteora DLMM pool are the exact same thing. There is no difference. But Meteora also provides the option to add these curved as well as bid ask. So when we look at curve, what is basically happening in curved strategy is that the majority of your liquidity is being added around the current token price. So for example, if we talk about stable pairs like USDC USDT pair, let me open that token itself. So this is a very stable pool wherein the price of both the tokens are either very close to each other at all times or almost stable. So basically in this kind of a token pair where the tokens are much more stable, you would want to add liquidity around the current price and not around the external ends of your range. because you know that the current price is basically where most of the swaps will be happening until and unless there is a case of some depegging or some black swan or something, some other event like that. We know that both these tokens would hold similar values continuously. So not most, all the swaps that would be happening around the current price, which is where you want most of your liquidity to be, so that you can make more fees on that volume. And similarly the same could be applied for LST tokens. So for example, Solana with Jupe Solana token, a same strategy where both the tokens are always close or stable with each other. Then thirdly, we have the bid ask strategy, and this strategy basically acts as a DCA in or out, a way to create a DCA position to get out or buy into a token. And you can obviously have it on both sides, so that in this case basically you are expecting that there will be much less price action around the current price, and either one of the token will either rise or fall against the other token in terms of value. And this is a good way to DCA into a token that you want to buy into. Now these are the basic three ways of providing liquidity that DLMM has inbuilt by default. Now you can actually use these three in a combination as per your own convenience, or how you want to add liquidity around a token. And so for example, and we can do this by basically layering one position over another. For example, let me show you. There is a Jupyter plugin on the Meteora page as well, wherein you can make your swaps, and the swaps basically go through Jupyter Dex, and it's the same thing. No extra fees is being charged here by Meteora for these swaps. So for example, let me also open the chart. I usually don't use DEX tools. I use GMGN for charting things, but since for demonstration, I'm using the Solana pool. So this is a perfect example of why I don't use DEX tools. Clearly you can see something weird was happening on Solana at this point. Like, this is not what Solana chart actually looks like. So this is basically the reason why is basically that this chart is for this specific pool only, with this bin step, this fees, and this so not for Solana USD pools on Meteora, this specific Solana USDC pool on Meteora. And I use GMGN because this shows an aggregated chart, so you don't see these anomalies in those charts. So this is basically the range that I'm choosing to add liquidity, and for this is the basic range that I'm looking at. Now I will just try to input 257 to 21. So this will create 3 positions in total, but I'll reduce that. So since I've selected a 10 bin step pool, this is a very tight range, -3 to +3, and these are the 69 bins from 232 to 46 that I'm choosing to add liquidity, which would basically mean 232 to 46. So this is the range in which I'm adding liquidity in this pool. And so now just this is not the strategy that I'm choosing, but for illustration on how you can layer one position on another, I want to show this. I will choose 40 as spot, not the whole 95 USDC. Once this position is created, now I have the option to add more liquidity. In this case, let's say I'll add 30 USDC, and I want to add this in a curve position. So basically I want more of the liquidity out of this specific position to be concentrated around the current price. Sometimes there is a delay. Basically, since this position has already moved from where I set it, most likely this transaction will not go through. This will fail because I set up a different. Oh, it did go through. So now clearly you can see that the shape of my liquidity has changed. I added a spot position, which was this layer, so that even when the price moves away from the current price, I have some amount of liquidity. If I had just chosen only curve and no spot, then this would basically be zero. It would be very minimal liquidity, but I want some liquidity to be there in the outer ranges as well, which is why I've added a spot position, and then on top of it I've added a curve position. Now I can, again, by adding a position in bid ask, almost balance it out. I added 30 USDC in curve. If I add 30 USDC in bid ask, it'll balance out the whole position and it'll become a spot position again. But if I add 100 USDC in curve, and then the shape of the liquidity changes completely, and I have a DCAing position wherein as the price of Solana goes up, I'll be selling more and more Solana. So less Solana would be sold around the current price, and more Solana would be sold around the higher prices. Whereas in case the price of Solana goes down, in this case, as and when the price goes down, I will keep increasing my buy size for Solana. And this is basically how you can customize the shape of the liquidity and as per your own strategy into how you want to trade the token that you've chosen. So now coming to how to trade the tokens, let me just close this. So right now this is quite low because again this is a Solana USDC pair, but as when it increases slightly, you'll most likely start seeing, so we can already start seeing this is the 24-hour return that I can expect if the volumes remain the same. If the volume increases and it stays within this price, this will increase. But if the volume decreases, this will decrease also. And this can be very different from what you're seeing here, depending on how you added your liquidity and what your strategy is. This could be much higher compared to this or much lower as well. So this is just to give you an idea, because this is very dynamic in terms of how it changes. This represents the 24-hour fees by the TVL. But usually in pools, especially when we talk about meme coin pools, people are depositing and withdrawing liquidity, which means this TVL keeps on changing and which is why we see a very dynamic number here instead of a fixed number. And if we create a position in that pool, the 24-hour fee by TVL that we actually get from our position might be very different. So now, since we're talking about tokens, let's and whenever you close a position, there's a pop-up, and when you click on that pop-up, this takes you to the Metlex side. Metlex is a tool created by Alex and the Goose DAO, and they are basically members, LP army members. So this basically shows you what your position has done, and you can download this image to share on X as well. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen these posts all over the timeline lately. So yeah, so now let's look into how some of the ways in how you could find tokens and try to create positions in DLMM pools. And let's look at some tokens. So I usually, again, this is not a formula set in stone or anything that this is what you have to do. You could have your own ways of finding tokens. What I usually do, and I would love to hear what those ways are, because sometimes I'm not able to find good tokens. So I usually have a set of things. I look at GMG, and the homepage shows you the trending tokens, as you might call them, and you can basically sort them in any manner. I would obviously choose the volume because we want to provide liquidity, and we can make more fees if the volume is higher. So the best volume that we can capture, more fees we will make. And in addition to this, I also refer to the Metlex website. All these links after the stream, I'll just add them in the description. And when we go to the MetalX website, we can click on DLMM 100, and you can basically, again, these are all ways to sort which pools you want to look at. And let's select fees greater than equal to 1%. Volume, where the 6-hour volume is higher. I mean, we don't want to LP into a token which is dead. And let's sort by volume in the past 1 hour. And the third thing I look at, I am looking at my timeline and what people are talking about. If I see a particular token is being talked about by not just one but a few people over a period of time, let's say 4 or 6 hours, then those are obviously the tokens I try to look at in terms of what the chart looks like. But in this case, let's so Lux is a token, right? I can clearly see a high volume token in the past hour, although not as high as Jelly, but Jelly is 3 times the market cap and much lower in terms of 24-hour. Again, this could be skewed, but right now it looks interesting. So I'll open the page. This basically, when we're looking at MetalX, and you can click on any of these tabs for the particular token and it takes you to that specific pool. So you don't even have to select if like this information is for this specific pool. But what I saw that right now Lux as a token has interested me, so it's not necessary that I'll go with this particular pool, but this is where I look at the chart. So the token has more run up quite well, and this is only 16 hours old. The developer is still holding. The no mint yes, blacklist no, LP burnt yes, top 10-12%, which is quite good. And the volume in last 24 hours 175 million, 1 hour 2.5 million, which is good volume. I mean, not as good as Trump was, but very good volume. 5 minute almost 500,000, not almost but about 80% there. Last 1 minute 25. So in this particular case, I right now personally I would just wait a little in, because right now the token price is quite close to this previous slight resistance. I mean, with meme coins we can't really get so technical, but some slight resistance this point, and I mean, I don't really consider VIX, but still this point. So either I see this token just, this might be the next high and now it comes down, which is what I want to wait a little and see. But in this case, let's try to set up a position on both sides, how I would do it if it's going up or down. So in that particular case, I'll first consider if the token just goes down from here. So in this case, I want to add liquidity at least till this point, because the token, this is basically the previous low that I can see, and if the okay, this is trying to break. If the momentum does die off, then most likely we'll come back to here, this price point. I've selected Solana price 63458. Okay, I also this is about 60%. Okay, and %40. So I just measured how much, like the bottom range that I've selected, how far is it from the current price? It's minus 40, about minus 36% from here, and plus 60% from here back up here. So in that case, okay, so 80 bin pool is good, but I would probably go for 100 bin pool if it has enough liquidity, which it, compared to this, it does not have very high liquidity. And since this is a high volume token, we want to be where most of the liquidity is concentrated, because the way these swaps work, since there is much concentrated liquidity in a 80 bin step pool, the swaps would always prefer to go through this pool rather than this pool. So this would have considerably higher volume compared to this one, just because there is much more liquidity here. So in this case, I'll go with the, now the problem with this 120, I would have selected the 125 bin pool, but the issue is the fees is very high for this pool, which again means a lot of the other pools with lower fees would be preferred for swaps. And again, this pool will not capture as much volume. Although if the token becomes very volatile, if it starts to break upwards towards 50 million market cap, or to the downwards towards back to 10 million market cap, in that cases this pool will actually do well. But right now I think I will have to go with an 80 bin pool for this example. Again, it seems to be breaking to the upwards. So if it breaks this, probably this becomes the next resistance level. And if it breaks and stays here for a bit, we probably see this going back up to this point, or at least try to go back up here. Maybe this forms a low somewhere here, but six, 3, 4, 5, 8. One, 2, 5, 1, 8. 1, 2, 5, 1, 8. So if you're manually inputting these numbers, until and unless you click once somewhere on the screen, these changes don't take place, like they do not show up in this range. So this is the range that I've selected, and this is 93. This range requires 93 bins, which basically means that when I create a position, I will be creating 2 positions with 1 transaction. But now that this is 93 bins, I can probably increase this to, let's say, 32, because 69 plus 69, about 138 bins is what we can use. So when we know that we have, although this slightly reduces the optimization of your liquidity, because again you will be spreading out liquidity in terms of the price going up much wider in terms of what you had chosen. So probably I'll stick with 27 only. I will swap about 0.253, sorry, 0.3. Done. Refresh. Now out of I have about 3000 Lux tokens. I will add about 2200 as spot. This is a simple position wherein I want liquid about more almost 75% of my liquidity in the spot range, so that I have a significant amount of liquidity throughout this range of -37 to +30% that I've selected. I'll add the first position has been confirmed, probably the one with all Solana, and the second has been confirmed. Okay, so second is the mix one. And then what I'll do is I'll take these remaining Lux tokens, since this is the position that I've got, this range that I selected. I got two positions. First position is where it's mostly Solana and a little amount of Lux tokens, and most of my Lux tokens went into this position. So I'll just add most of these and in a bid ask. So as the price goes up, I sell off more and more of my tokens, and so I'm not just using this to make fees, but I'm also using this position to sell my tokens as the price goes up. So this is the final shape of this position. So now I have a position of about $175, out of which $122 has been added in this range, which is around the active price. But if the price of this token goes up even slightly higher, most likely I will be, or this entire position will be in Solana, and my tokens basically I have sold at an incrementally higher price, and if I close at that point, I would have made gains not just on the token but also on the fees along the way. Now in terms of this happening in let's suppose the next 15-20 minutes this happens and then I close my position. In this case, I'm actually making some impermanent loss, because had I not provided liquidity and just held my tokens, I would have made a higher profit. But prices don't move linearly in any one direction. Prices always go up and down, up and down. So most likely all that, while I would have, instead of just holding my tokens, I have made use of this volatility of this volume. I've created fees for myself, as well as I am sort of speculating that the token price will go up, and I'm incrementally selling my tokens at a higher price. Yeah, so this is basically, and the second position is just it's mostly spot, like I showed that I only left about 30% of the tokens, and less than 30, I'm sorry, about 23-25% of the tokens were left, and those I've added in a bid ask shape, so that as the price again keeps going up, I'm selling more and more of my tokens. And as you can see right now, I've same volatility around the same price, next 24 hours keeps on increasing. Currently the average is higher, but at the pace at which this is increasing, probably this will go around 120% until, as long as we have similar levels of volume. So this is a general overview, just one way you could find tokens through. Again, you could be looking at tokens that you've figured out through other means, hearing through groups, KOLs, anywhere. Basically, if you're looking at at a token and considering buying into it, you can basically, rather than just buying and holding that token, you can add liquidity in the liquidity pool, and not just make fees, but also, you're not only making fees, but you're also reducing your risk. Like if the price goes down, you will have lesser loss because of the fees that you've made. But again, similarly, if the price only goes up, then you would have lesser profit compared to if you had just held. So this buffs your profit, as but also protects you from heavy losses. And uh, again, some tokens just do not behave the way that we want them to behave, and there are times wherein the position that you've created, the strategy that you used, it hasn't really worked out. In such cases, I usually keep my stop loss at around 20 to 22%. So if I have deposited about let's say $100, and at the bottom range of the pool that $100 has gone to about $90, then I keep a buff of about another $10, that the price can go down to 80, and I'll wait for it to recover. But if it goes further below than that, in those cases I close my positions and take a loss on the position. Again, it's because if your position has gone out of range on the downside, most likely you're holding one tokens. Again, if it's not in the active range, it's not making fees, so you're just holding token. And if it's only going down, you're just increasing your losses. So at you have to have a plan that at certain point, this is my stop loss, and this is where I will take the loss and move on to something else. So yeah, I think that'll be all for today. Again, your strategies can vary, and I am not the best technical trader. So when I'm selecting ranges, it's usually only since I'm mostly dealing with meme coins when I'm providing liquidity. I am just using okay, I do look at some other, like sometimes I do look at the volume indicator. Let me, the volume profile visible range. So this basically shows where most of the volume most of the volume is happening. So clearly this price point is where the price will stay for a bit, because clearly a lot of volume is at this price point, which means a lot of liquidity is also at this price point. So this might stay here for a little bit, which is good for us, because again we have a position on here, and as it longer it stays around the same price point, because trades are continuously happening, more fees we are making, and we are not even having any impermanent loss. Our fees are basically just profit, because the price is again still the same. But again, this is something that is constantly changing, and it is slightly a lagging indicator. So this is not real time. And second, what I mostly use is basically just support and resistance lines, which is basically a simple theory that, you know, as many taps, if you're setting up a line, if you have more taps to this line compared to, let's say, if I put up a line here, out of these two, the more accurate one will be the one which has more taps. So for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this has one extra tap. So this is probably like very basic. This is not very accurate, not very scientific at all. But again, memes are not very scientific. It's just a rough range that you're selecting, and as you're looking at more and more charts providing liquidity to more and more tokens, you will start to develop those pattern identifying neurons get activated in your brain, and you start identifying, and you do get better. Like when I started this, when I would put a support or resistance line, it never followed. But now I am at a point wherein I'll put it, even if I put it randomly 5 out of 10 times, it will be followed, because again over time it develops. The more it's like anything else in the world, the more you practice, the better you'll get. So I think that'll be all for tonight. I hope this information is useful. If it is, do let me know in the comments. Do like, share, subscribe. Weird, I'm saying this still. Good night.